For example, the case in France, a judge somewhere in rural areas of France, one of the village judges somewhere, decides that he's going to indict leaders in Rwanda and talks about all kinds of things that happened in Rwanda and, blames Rwandans for. At the same time, there is a bad history between us where actually during the genocide, there are many things that happened that involved some people from France. So now, instead of actually Rwanda having a case against France, a judge in France indicts leaders of a country, military leaders, political leaders, a whole list of about close to 20. And they want to indict them to France to be tried for things that they say they did, which are also completely fabricated. But because of that bad history we have had, they wanted to do that. And we said, this is not possible. We said, if you are doing that, and they called it universal jurisdiction that give the powers to these judges. And we said, okay, if actually your judges have powers to do that, to indict people in Rwanda or elsewhere and take them to the courts in France, if it is universal, then our judges should have the authority to actually indict your people and bring them to the courts of law. So the question therefore was, how does it become universal when it is just one way? So this was the whole process. In fact, it was the same case with the one I mentioned of Spain, which we have since, on the same basis of argument, actually we have resolved this one. The one with France is still outstanding, and we have said, no way, you are not going to try anybody from here unless we try those we have cases against actually that were committed here. In fact, the people they want to try in Rwanda are not said to have committed crimes in France. They are accusing them of committing crimes in Rwanda. So how about those of your country that actually committed crimes in my own country that you don't allow me to try? So it was a basis of fairness.
Immediately it was filed, regardless of other constitutional petitions that would be pending before that court. That is why the framers of the Constitution used the expression as soon as possible. It is noteworthy that Mr. Mabirizi equates his petition to presidential election petitions, which are given specific timelines under the Presidential Elections Act. The authorities cited are, for this reason, inapplicable to his petition. Most importantly, I take note of the fact that the court was faced with a very complex matter involving at least 9 petitions with voluminous documents and pleadings that required the court to peruse in order to prepare for the hearing. This included authorities cited by the petitioners, specifically Mr. Mabirizi, who stated in this court that he filed a total of 60 authorities before the Constitutional Court. This would inevitably necessitate a lot of reading and research by the learned justices of the court, which could not be accomplished within a short time. The same reason applies to the failure to deliver the judgment within the 60 days. Most importantly, it should be noted that the 60 days requirement is not mandatory. The Uganda Code of Judicial Conduct is simply a set of principles and rules that were adopted by judicial officers to provide guidance in their judicial conduct. Failure to comply with it is not fatal to the judgment. The rule says, where judgment is reserved, it should be delivered within 60 days, unless for good reason it is not possible to do so. End of quote. Mr. Mabirizi never inquired from the Constitutional Court whether it had no good reason why the judgment was delivered outside the 60 days. There is also no law cited by Mr. Mabirizi that had been violated by the court. The period must be taken in context. In most jurisdictions, cases take more than 6 months. For these reasons, I find this complaint had no basis. Mr. Mabirizi's complaint that he was evicted from the seat of the court also lacked merit in my view. It's a notorious fact that Mr. Mabirizi is a law graduate who has not yet been called to the bar since he has not yet acquired the postgraduate diploma in legal practice that is required for his enrollment. He cannot therefore practice law from the bar alongside other counsel with requisite qualifications. That is why the Constitutional Court advised him to sit where the rest of the petitioners were seated. It should be noted that Mr. Mabirizi was given a separate desk and seat away from the bar, even in this court. What is most important is that he was able to present his petition without suffering any prejudice as a result of the seating arrangement. The allegation that he was not given ample time to present his case is unsubstantiated. He did not elaborate on how much time he needed to present his case and how much of his case, if any, was left out by the court. It is also not on record that he asked for more time and the court refused his request. The allegation that the court turned into defense counsel and even suggested answers was not substantiated again. Regarding the denial to make a rejoinder, I find that all parties were given equal opportunity to present their respective cases. This was after the court had, from the outset, set out the ground rules on how the consolidated petitions should be heard. And this is accepted practice in modern case management, where the judges are expected to be proactive. I also find that all the appellants were given an opportunity to make rejoinders before closing their cases. And Mr. Mabirizi actually did so at page 2231 of the record of proceedings. The Deputy Chief Justice might have used the wrong term when he referred to it as closing remarks, but those were actually rejoinders. The Constitutional Court did not contravene any of the international conventions as alleged. The court had the discretion to deal with the petition in accordance with the rules of procedure and to give precisely that. I have perused the judgments of the 5 justices of the Constitutional Court. It is crystal clear that the judgments were based on the pleadings, the affidavit evidence, as well as the submissions, including the authorities relied on by the parties. The fact that the justices did not specifically mention all of them does not mean that they never took them into account in arriving at their decision. It's a question of style. I also find that the justices determined all the issues that had been framed and agreed upon by the parties for determination by that court. The legality of the affidavits of Mr. Mwakanizi and General Muhoozi were not an issue. Even so, both officials had sworn the said affidavits in their capacities as the highest technical officers in the UPDF and the Ministry of Finance, respectively. The allegations were against the UPDF and the Ministry of Finance. Musoke, Justice of the Constitutional Court, rightly found out that the affidavits in question did not contain any hearsay and declined to strike them out. I also find that the allegations that the DCJ was covering up the affidavit of General Muhoozi is baseless. I have checked the record and I find that the affidavit was sworn on the 29th of March 2018 before one Annette Okwera, the Commissioner for Oaths. Regarding the issue of cross-examination, I note that the witnesses were cross-examined with leave of court. I note that the court gave leave on condition that counsel would confine the cross-examination to the areas that were covered in the affidavit of the respective witnesses. I am aware of the requirement under Section 137 of the Evidence Act, but it does not apply in such circumstances. The section applies where the evidence is given orally in court. As for the remedy of severance, I agree with counsel for the respondent that it need not have been pleaded. Article 137(4) empowers the Constitutional Court to, and I quote, A, grant an order of redress, and severance was an order of redress. Regarding the failure to give reasons for dismissing his application to summon the Speaker for cross-examination, I find from the record that Nakuru, Justice of the Constitutional Court, who delivered the ruling on that said application, actually gave a reason for dismissal to the effect that the court had not found any reason to do so. He, however, added that the court would give a detailed reason later on in the judgment. Unfortunately, the court, most likely through an oversight, did not do so. This was an error on the part of the court. The issue is, however, moot now since the Supreme Court dismissed application number 7 of 2018 for a similar request on the 14th of December 2018. The requests for the other officials were not made by both Mabirizi and counsel for the second appellant. The Constitutional Court cannot be blamed for failure to summon them. Perhaps as argued by the respondent, the court was satisfied that the evidence availed, particularly the answered, together with the certificate of financial implication as well as the certificate of compliance by the Speaker, would suffice in the circumstances. Regarding the alleged injudicious exercise of discretion, particularly with regard to the professional fees and denial of professional compensation to Mr. Mabirizi, it is well settled that an appellate court can only interfere with exercise of discretion by a court of original jurisdiction where, and I quote, 1, where the judge misdirects himself with regard to the principles governing the exercise of his discretion. 2, where the judge takes into account matters that he ought not to consider or fails to take into account matters that he ought to consider. 3, where the exercise of discretion is plainly wrong. And I've cited the authorities there. These awards were purely discretionary, and the appellants have not proved that the justices misdirected themselves on the principles regarding the award. This court will not therefore interfere with it. The same reason applies to the complaints by the second appellants. In conclusion, I agree with the respondent that the procedure adopted by the Constitutional Court was entirely within its discretion and did not in any way prejudice the appellant or occasion any derogation of his or their rights to fair hearing. All the appellants participated at each and every stage of the proceedings and received a fair hearing in accordance with Article 28 of the Constitution. The appellants have not proved the respective grounds set out herein, and they accordingly fail. Issue 7B says, if so, what is the effect on the decision of the court? In light of my findings on issue 7A, this issue does not arise. Now I go to issues 1 and 5. Issue 1 is as follows. Whether the learned justices of the Constitutional Court misdirected themselves on the application of the basic structure doctrine. Issue 5. Whether the learned majority justices misdirected themselves when they held that Constitutional Amendment Act No. 1 of 2018 on the removal of age limit for the presidential and local council 5 offices was not inconsistent with the 1995 Constitution. The issues before the Constitutional Court were as follows. 6G, whether the act was against the structure of the spirit and the structure of the Constitution. And issue 12 was whether sections 3 and 7 of the act were inconsistent or in contravention of articles 21, 3 and 5 of the Constitution. The Constitutional Court answered issue 6G in the affirmative in respect of sections 2, 5, 6, 8, and 10 of the Act. And they answered it in the negative in respect of sections 1, 3, 4, and 7 of the Act. Issue 12, they answered it unanimously. I shall not go through the submissions of counsel. I'll go to the consideration of these two grounds. The learned justices of the Constitutional Court gave a detailed history of the basic structure doctrine in their judgment. I do not intend to repeat them, but let me briefly summarize the essence of the basic structure doctrine in this judgment as I understand it. The basic structure doctrine is a judicial principle that the Constitution has certain basic features that cannot be altered or destroyed through amendments by Parliament in exercise of its legislative powers. These features are considered to be fundamental principles that give identity to the Constitution. They are intended to subsist forever to enable the continued existence and legitimacy of a country, and therefore it cannot be amended in a way which would destroy the indestructible character of the Constitution. The doctrine was introduced by the Supreme Court of India as a limitation on the power of Parliament and a measure against arbitrary exercise of power of Parliament so that it would not freely amend the Constitution. It became pronounced in India following the case of Kesavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, which imposed limitations upon the amendment power of Parliament in amending the Constitution in as far as certain features of the Constitution were concerned. And the court held, and I quote, "According to the doctrine, the amendment power of Parliament is not unlimited. Rather, it does not include the power to abrogate or change the identity of the Constitution or its basic structure, basic features." End of quote. This doctrine was affirmed by Professor Konrad Dietrich, a German jurist. It has since influenced the constitutional jurisprudence in several other jurisdictions across the globe, including Taiwan, India, South Africa, Kenya, and so on. In all these cases, it is generally established that there are certain features of the constitutional order that are so fundamental and form the foundation of the Constitution, and therefore cannot be changed by Parliament even if it followed the necessary amendment process. The doctrine is still in its nascent stage. In some countries like Tanzania, it was not accepted for the reason that the Constitution of Tanzania does not contain provisions that cannot be amended, and I quote that decision. There is no hard and fast rule in determining the basic structure of a given constitution. This is determined on a case-by-case basis. Over time, the courts have taken into account the historical background, the preamble, and the entire scheme of the Constitution in determining these issues. Various courts have identified certain constitutional core or set of basic constitutional principles that form the constitutional identity, which cannot be abrogated through the constitution amendment process. It is widely believed that they include the supremacy of the Constitution, democracy, federalism, independence of the judiciary, secularism, human dignity, sovereignty of the people, separation of powers, and rule of law, among others. Now, in the Constitutional Court, the learned justices rightly recognize the fact that this doctrine is embedded in our Constitution, and while determining this basic structure of this country, the learned justices were guided by our constitutional history, our constitutional structure, political changes, the preamble, and the national vision of this country. I quote what the learned Deputy Chief Justice observed, and I also reproduce what Justice Kasule observed, Justice Chiborion, Justice Musoke. In summary, the learned justices observed that the basic structures of our Constitution include the following: the national objectives and directive principles of state policy, sovereignty of the people, the Constitution as the supreme legal instrument, democratic governance and practices, a unitary state, separation of powers between the executive, parliament, and the judiciary, Bill of Rights, ensuring respect for the observance of fundamental rights, judicial independence, and the preamble. Justice Kakuru, in his dissent, has also highlighted a list that he considers to be the basic structure of our country, and I reproduce it. I have quoted extensively from the judgments of the Justice of the Constitutional Court to determine how each of them resolved this issue. I find that they have brought out clearly what constitutes the basic structure of the 1995 Constitution of Uganda. In my view, the owners of the Constitution are the people of Uganda under Article 101 of the Constitution, which says that all power belongs to the people, who shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance with the Constitution.
For example, the case in France, a judge somewhere in rural areas of France, one of the village judges somewhere, decides that he's going to indict leaders in Rwanda, and talks about all kinds of things that happened in Rwanda, and blames Rwandans for. At the same time, there is a bad history between us, where actually during the genocide, there are many things that happened that involved some people from France. So now, instead of actually Rwanda having a case against France, a judge in France indicts leaders of a country, military leaders, political leaders, a whole list of about close to 20. And they want to indict them to France to be tried for things that they say they did, which are also completely fabricated. But because of that bad history we have had, they wanted to do that. And we said, this is not possible. We said, if you are doing that, and they called it universal jurisdiction that give the powers to these judges. And we said, okay, if actually your judges have powers to do that, to indict people in Rwanda or elsewhere, and take them to the courts in France, if it is universal, then our judges should have the authority to actually indict your people and bring them to the courts of law. So the question therefore was, how does it become universal when it is just one way? So this was the whole process. In fact, it was the same case with the one I mentioned of Spain, which you have since, on the same basis of argument, actually we have resolved this one. The one with France is still outstanding, and we have said, no way, you are not going to try anybody from here unless we try those we have cases against actually that were committed here. In fact, the people they want to try in Rwanda are not said to have committed crimes in France. They are accusing them of committing crimes in Rwanda. So how about those of your country that actually committed crimes in my own country that you don't allow me to try? So it was a basis of fairness.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning. Those in Kampala, Uganda, good morning. We have been across live in Kampala, Uganda, the capital city of Uganda, where the Supreme Court is making one of the historical rulings in the history of that nation. We brought you live from our correspondent and our sister company, television station across there. The signal, our satellite picked it right from there, and we have brought to you people in Nairobi, in Germany, in South Africa, in Cairo, in Khartoum, wherever you are. good morning. That is the ruling that is going on. We shall bring you the results maybe after 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. Each judge is going to read what he thinks. There are those who are going to defy. There are those who might agree, or all of them might agree. We don't know the outcome. But whichever way it comes, it is a test for Africa. That's why it links up with our second question. Does constitutionalism in Africa help politics and governance? Is there any hold of constitutionalism in Africa? People who got to power abrogate the constitution. If you come to power today, you say, I have killed the other constitution. Then you do what? Does it hold? Then you mold your own constitution, which ends up doing the same things that were done. The Uganda 1995 constitution was a very good instrument, a document that had brought Uganda to the new levels after several years of war, dictatorship, detention without a trial. The Uganda constitution became very fundamental, but we lost it out. When in 2005, someone woke up and said, time is running against me, changed the constitution and removed the term limits. We have gone into slumber, and that slumber is waking up today. Is the last day of the slumber. You see that? And the last day of slumber is always very chaotic. You remember Noah tried to collect. People were applying for Noah to enter Noah's ark. The room was not there. God had already prepared who was going to go there. So always in Africa, when you are handling other human beings, remember where you also came from. You made some people to hurriedly leave the city. You gave them short time to pack up their goods. So in history, history repeats itself in so many ways. Mr. Bashir, as we speak, the prison where he sent others is where he is now. He's in the same Koba prison, which is a few meters away, miles away from the central Khartoum. It's a dreaded place where political prisoners are kept very well. They are treated very well on rice and mutton. So history, the way you came in is the way you could go. The way you gave others orders is the way you go. So we shall look at that in the second phase, relating maybe go back to Kampala in the Supreme Court in Kololo, and our correspondents or our sister station will provide us the information, and we get one expert from Kampala to analyze to us the significance of the ruling in the Supreme Court today. Remember, it is a sad day. Whichever way the ruling goes, it marks the beginning of a sad day in the history of our country. We should have not gone this side. There was no need of going this direction. There was no need. I want to talk about that when we come in the second phase, but the point might escape. I want Miriam to keep it for me. Remind me of 1995. Ask me.
All right.
And then to go back, you'll see that this Matsanga looks like a prophet. I'm telling you. 1995, remind me. This morning, let's look at the Kenyan Supreme Court. We shall return to the Uganda capital city, Kampala, where the Supreme Court of 7 judges are ruling on something very fundamental that could change the landscape of that country. Either it sends us to where our destiny has been designed, or removes us from going to the destiny which has been designed.
But we can always guess where that
Yes.
the ruling will take, unless a miracle happens.
Yes, unless a miracle happens. It's not like Kenya, where judges, well, even in Kenya, some of the judges are not, as we are going to see, the corruption in the judiciary, the law itself. One lawyer has written to the Law Society of Kenya saying, I think they better disband themselves. You have seen that one? It's very interesting. I don't know whether your friend lawyer has told you.
No, we haven't spoken in a while. I'll call her.
This lawyer has written, I saw a letter of an opinion this morning,
Yes.
how Mr. X was allowed to contest without documents. That case of Tomo gender has not left.
Oh, still there.
Oh, yes. Someone has brought an opinion that could actually, it is a fantastic piece I've read through. But the question is, it comes to the Kenyan law courts. Do they serve the interests of the people? They left Swazuru to go. They gave him even to go back to his office to clean the other records. The records are back here.
And the documents that were being deposited by the National Land Commission shows that officials are actually paying their relatives the money that was meant to compensate the people they took their land from. How immoral is that?
It is very immoral. You're asking how immoral? Very immoral.
Absolutely.
This country has a problem, like Uganda has a problem. In fact, ours are compounded with the difficulties of uncoordinated troop movement. Yours are compounded by difficulties of apathy. A state of apathy has been created against the president. That's all. There is no country in the world that does not need taxation. Jamen, taxation is everywhere. Everybody is taxed. After the Second World War, Britain was taxed to rebuild the houses that were damaged, blown up by the Germans. Taxation is the essence of any governance. But it depends. But, and I want people to get me very properly, but it depends the timing. Two things I want to teach people who are doing PR for the government here, or the president or whatever. Listen carefully. Perception, public interest, public management. I'm now teaching here. Those perception, public interest, public management, public administration. Those things don't mean the same. Please. Anybody pretending to be anywhere. Those four things are quite different. Above all, there is something that the CS and the ministers should know and read. That's why there is the School of Governance, School of Government. Go there and take 6 weeks and read. CS Macharia, go and read. What is causing trouble for the president at the moment is the lack of real interpretation. Not that people don't need the houses. People need the houses. You cannot build a social contract when you are sleeping on stones. You cannot build a social contract when you are sleeping on trees. You cannot get judge treatment, hospital. You cannot have industry. You cannot wake up in the morning to go and work when you don't have where you are sleeping. That's why factories prepare houses for their workers.
Yes. They used to, rather.
They used to be. Webuye used to have all those houses. Every factory, Naitil, Chikoi, all these factories in Eldoret, they had what we call workers' welfare. A state is built. Even Karl Marx will wake up from the grave and accept with Matsanga that this state must build a welfare society to have a social contract For Kenya to rebuild its social contract, it needs to listen to Uhuru on the question of housing. We might be burdened today, but you remember me tomorrow that housing is the basic. Without a house, shelter where you are, Karl Marx said you can walk like a ghost walking down the streets of Munich. That's why most workers in Germany and Britain, in the Industrial Revolution, from agriculture to Industrial Revolution, people moved. The first tenet of social structuring was housing. I fully support the president, the government on the housing nature. But, and carefully, but, I want to be very candid, but the timing, there is one big element in any institution or political science, and maybe the government spokesman should come to me to lecture to him on the essence of those 4 words: public administration, public management, and public affairs. That's why there is science of all these different departments. Political science has different avenues. Public interest, and above all, perception. But there is a very bad word, but. The worst word in all this that overrules, that can create a problem for the things you can do them very well, is called timing.
So what is wrong with the timing of the 1.5 taxing?
Very bad perception. People are reading on corruption. People expected the president to say, I have hammered you, I have hammered you, I have hammered you, I have hammered you. That is public perception. Jermaine, rise up. Don't make our president to look a bad man. Let's talk the truth. You know me, I'm arguing the truth here. People can silence me and I keep quiet and go. But I'm telling you, don't make the president to be doing things wrongly. Public perception right now in Kenya does not need you to introduce any new law. It will be brought down.
Especially touching on tax.
Please.
Money. Yes.
When you find these ministers with master's degree, where did they read them from? Where did they read them from? How can you bring a law which talks about finding somebody who has taken, when we have just lost money from Aroro Dam and Camrero, and somebody came up and told us, no money was lost. There's a letter of guarantee. People are annoyed. Your Excellency, people are annoyed. A friend who tells you the truth is better than the friend who lies you every day. People are annoyed in Kenya or Yemen. People are annoyed. They don't want to hear. Not that the Kenyans don't want to pay tax. They want. But Mzee, people are very annoyed. There was no thief. No, so far, no thief. This one, this thief, mister. This one here. Swindler here. This Swindler called Swazuri. We knew him.
And his commission.
We need another big fish. We need several pharaohs. You are bringing us jesters and poets. People want to see some movement towards jail.
Yes, not just bring.
And then you can bring anything that will pay even more.
We will pay attention.
Someone, and that's point number one. Point number two, someone has divided this court. And for me, I don't want to lie, Machiavellian politics has entered this system. You see, someone goes to tell the president, to say Raila is spoiling our party. President yesterday said, no. This is rubbish. Them with Raila discuss unity of this nation. Not discussing how you will win power. You win power in a divided country. Which country will you lead? This is like a Bogani Changarai. It has reminded me of Morgan Changarai Walai. Morgan Changarai went to Britain. I boxed him one day in London until police told me to get out.
You did what now?
Yes, I did. Me and Morgan Changarai let him. He's gone to the Mecca before me. We meet there again, I'll box him. If God can allow us to fight.
What went so wrong for you?
Very, very bad man. You know, Morgan Changarai went to Britain and told the British that you must bring sanctions to finish his fellow Zimbabweans. When I heard that in Commonwealth, and we are sitting trying to tell the Secretary General, the Nigerian Secretary General,
yes.
I was with Obasanjo. I told him, look at this pumpkin. I said it. Your head looks like a pumpkin. You are not worth it. And I stood up. He said, you call me a pumpkin, you are Ugandan, why are you involved in Zimbabwean affairs? I said, I'm a Pan-African and I know what is going to happen to your country. How can you come here to tell Britain to bring more sanctions on Zimbabwe? Look at what these guys are doing here. You know what they are doing here? The politics. They go to these courts and tell judges that anything that Uhuru brings now, cut it. Someone. Kenyans, you listen to me. Someone. If you watch the MPs, you watch the Citizen last night, you must have puked.
The two members of parliament?
Yes. One of the members, a good liar, who has never paid my bill in Hague. I paid food and he never paid. He said he's going to Turkey, he's going to come back. I saw him on TV yesterday, a liar. I saw him. Honestly, that is a chairman of budget committee WAPI. You can't pay a bill of $250 euros of a poor man who had already bought his own ticket. What type of people? Then he's arguing. Have you seen the argument? You must have gone to the me, I just closed my TV. These are the people who go out every day. And I say, Raila is spoiling our party.
They're so captured with the party march.
Yes.
They forget the national.
The president comes out to say Raila is not even discussing Jubilee. They discuss unity. Now, these guys who want this country dismembered, Jermaine, will you lead? You see, I told Changarai, are you going to lead the dead Zimbabweans? The people who want power now, who really want this 2022 power, will you read trees? Because if you are going to bring war here, because you want to lead, if you are not in power, then you are doing us like this. You know, voters in this world are very clever. People are going to reach a point. You know, it has not reached a point of a climax. People are going to ask, excuse me, if this guy can do this now.
Yes. Oh, no, Kenyans are already asking.
Yes. If someone can say the things he's saying now.
Yes.
What about if he has power? We shall go back to Moi era. Walai. Yes. And that's where people are going to lose votes. People have not started campaigning yet, man. Don't finish your bullets yet. I'm a political strategist. I do. If I can even win, do a strategy for Labour Party. In 1998, we won an election. If you ask Tony Blair who Dr. Matsanga is, he will not say, I don't know him. If you ask Claire Short, Catherine, Margaret Beckett, Patricia Scotland, Blanket, they will not say they don't know me. Khan, the mayor of London, will not say he doesn't know me in Streatham. We all campaigned door to door for Labour Party to come to power. So we know strategy. You can't start now. People are going to query. Listen, people are going to query that, man, if you can treat us like this, if you can tell people that when I take power, I will deport you, Have you heard that? So what about if you have power? So it will be counterproductive. He what one answer, it is, do you know what? A person who is, I like the way Martha Karua.
Oh, yesterday on the...
You saw that. I had to switch to the other program of Martha Karua. And I think for the first time I started liking her. Because on the question of ICC, we went separate ways with Martha Karua.
Yes.
There are people here in this country that I went separate ways for the sake of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto. I went separate ways because of I supporting of defending these 6 Ocampo. I went separate ways. 1 is Martha Karua, 2 is the late Mutula Kilonzo, 3 Saitoti, 4 Wako did not go away from me. He agreed with me. 4 Hassan Omar, 5 Makau Mutua, 6 Maina Kiai, 7 Gladio Lotienos, 8 John Jomue, 9 Unaona Harun Dubi, 10 Kregoro, 11 Waki. Even if I'm going to the grave, I'll never forgive some of them.
Forgiveness is very important.
I've forgiven,
for a proper
but I have to remember
yes.
that I should not pass those. They never liked me here. Because I told the truth about this ICC. They thought I was coming in here. I told them, Martha Karua was one of those I did not like to see anywhere. Because they messed up something. And I'm happy that Moses Kuria came out to say, hey,
I paid.
I was paying witnesses.
Yes.
I disliked them. I told them. I said there's something wrong in this place which is stinking. So when you come back to the reality of politics, today not that Kenyans want to pay. They can't pay. But the truth is this, Jamen, mnisikilize kabisa. Jamen wenzi yangu, ndugu na wapenzi na wadada, just listen to me. People there is a state of apathy that has been created on the president. Everything the president brings now, someone has poisoned.
Yeah. But also on the matter of the taxing, the 1.5% of the house levy that the government is seeking to accomplish one of the major agendas of affordable housing, which I think is a very noble idea. But there was a case in court that was supposed to be heard on the 20th of May. So maybe do you think the government might have rushed through the Minister of Transport? And the timing, the way you're saying it, would that have triggered now what we see right now? The apprehension we see right now, even from Kenyans.
Yes, it's a lot. And this Kenyan man is not, as if he's not listening to what I'm talking. I'm saying Kenyans are not refusing. Please.
And I think part of that he's saying that, are you referring to Marcel Samora? I think part of that he's saying, very kindly, Matanga, why do you discuss Kenyan issues more often than any other country? That is because
the television is here.
Yes, and also
that's the answer. Answer him. Maybe you can answer him. I can. I've just started with Uganda.
But we are coming to the rest of Africa in a short bit.
Yes.
After I've read the African.
But the story is that I am with you, Mr. Mesho.
Yes.
Meseo. I'm with you all the time.
And he's saying we are not opposed to building houses.
Exactly.
So
isn't it what I'm saying?
And we are opposed to the process to building these houses. Look, Kenya has initiated so many projects, but their ends are nowhere to be seen. He might be having a very legitimate concern.
Yeah, but he's having a legitimate concern. Isn't it, Miriam, the same thing I'm saying?
You said from the start. So maybe he might have caught
Or you came in late.
Let's
explain it to you.
Because I think you are very clear on that.
Yes. very clear.
Yes,
Kenyans don't refuse to pay.
Yes.
But they are concerned about the number of corruption.
And he mentioned Galana Kalan irrigation that costed us
corruption.
Much money. Right now it's just
the money. So even if you come, that's why I was teaching the 5 words: public administration, public perception, public interest,
exactly,
public administration. And then above all, there is one word that governs all of those.
Yes.
Before you go out as a minister, check the law. Check the timing.
Exactly.
The timing today, Michelle, is not good for you to introduce anything new. Wacha tuambiane ukweli.
That is the truth.
You can't introduce anything new now. People wanted to help the president to achieve corruption. That's why people go to the extent of being vigilantes. Yes. When they were becoming vigilantes to help the president, they are not helping themselves. They are helping the president to achieve a legacy. So that when he goes to African Union, when he walks after 2022,
he can walk with his
shoulders high.
Yes.
But since the president came to the parliament and said people are vigilantes, newspapers have avoided, have you noticed? They have left the one corruption. They no longer chase, they no longer mulika. This mulika also helps. For example, it is the press investigative journalist who told the DCI that there was money in a bank which is stolen. Someone is cooking and cheating people that he has money in the bank which is fake. And it is us who give the information.
Yes,
so whistleblowers cannot be called names. The people have now gone back to their cocoon.
And I think the press also played a very big role in terms of whistleblowing a lot of these cases.
Exactly.
Give them the front pages every single day. It was depressing.
I tell the truth.
News, but
on that one, people right now, someone says, do you know what?
Part of the interview you mentioned yesterday, and I was watching the 2 gentlemen, the members of parliament, and one of them was saying, no, the money that was lost was 7 billion. I'm thinking, why do they keep insisting when the CS for Treasury came here and told us? So whose word should we go with?
The Honorable MP Chungwa was trying to tell us even a lie.
He was insisting
when all of us were listening to the deputy president saying.
I think that is when I switched to the next channel.
I switched off also. We heard it, and they said, I was not invited here. I had to cut, when I had my boss was here, I had to cut the journey and I come back here. But let me make it categorical and let the world know. There was no money lost. The money lost was not 21 billion.
7 billion.
It is 7 billion.
Rotich came and made it very clear. He is the treasurer. He's the one who authorized this. So if Rotich authorized 21 billion, who are you to come there, sit down and tell us it's 7 billion that was lost? What do you know that we don't know? Can you tell us?
You know what? This it can't take a footing. I am sorry that we have wasted all this time. We don't learn anything, Miriam.
Yes.
People in Africa don't learn until people come to the City Square or Uhuru Park, like they have come for Bashir.
Yes.
Is when someone tries to call you.
Bashir is in a maximum prison.
Yes.
Can you believe that?
Can I tell you? But I told you.
They're still joking around.
I told you.
And that is why most of these dictators don't want to leave power. Now look.
Yes, I told you.
Yeah.
When I sat down.
Just resign early enough.
What did I tell Mugabe? Part of the problem that when I met Mugabe in AU, I told him, Your Excellency, start preparing a transition.
It's good he's enjoying
We need you to give advice in the Kaunda. I was jokingly as a friend.
Yes.
I think some people around took it very serious and I went and told Mugabe
the wife
that this guy is too much.
He must have told the wife.
Yes. I told Mugabe that take a transition, let someone you know prepare. Look what do we talk? Look at our country. Today our country has no body to replace. The government there has not made any transition or arrangement. Ask the president today, who if in case you are gone, who do we rely to?
The vice.
Kim Il-sung relied to Kim Jin-sung. And Kim Il-sung relied to his son, and the son produced another short guy in North Korea. Kim Jong-un, whatever you call them.
Kim Jong-un, yes.
Yes. I grew up when Kim Il-sung was the leader, the first one, the father, who handed over to Kim Il-sung. And Kim Il-sung groomed the short put guy.
King Jong-un.
We call him short put. You know, when he stands with Trump, you see a real stone going to be thrown. So, the guy, preparation in Uganda, in Africa, do we prepare transitionally? Transitional, constitutional preparation. Uganda is halfway there, not there. If there is a gap, oh my God, the country goes to chaos.
It's going to be a crisis.
I look at Egypt. We are going to look at that. Don't forget, mark it.
It's
Egypt.
there. I've indicated it's part. It's
the
there.
man who claims to be the AU chairperson.
Yes.
Hey, what he has done in Egypt, you can't believe it.
Imagine.
So let's not finish the soup.
Yes.
Let's stick to this court.
Yes.
The courts in Kenya. What do they do? The corruption in the courts. This corruption has played a very vital role in destroying the morale of the people of Kenya. Your Excellency, until you clean up the courts, until the courts have a new beginning, a new lease of life, people are not going to hear you. It looks like people have accepted.
Yes, and I think Marcel just made another very interesting point. Thank you so much, Marcel, this morning for engaging with us. And you're saying, I think our president does not know how much the ordinary mwananchi is willing to help in fighting corruption. We are more than willing. No president on earth has the support of mwananchi than Uhuru, but he's not able to recognize this power and make use of it. Even if the war on corruption needs constitutional amendments, we are ready. Uhuru Kenyatta nogopa.
Exactly, that's a very good. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Today, those are the type of comments we want you to make coming from you. People are willing to help President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Indeed.
If President came to Parliament this time with the state of the nation to say, can we change the law around corruption?
Kenyans will rally.
People would have rallied around him.
Yes.
He's now, you are saying we take the cases to judiciary, but the judiciary is already corrupt.
We need reforms in the judiciary.
Yeah, you can't take a case to Maraga and Maraga will go and consult his tribesmen on how he should rule.
Really?
Didn't you see the other day?
What did he do now?
He went back to Nyamira.
Okay.
And Nyamira issued a warning that anybody threatening our Chief Justice, we shall deal with you.
Was that a politician who said that?
No. The whole...
The leadership
you
of
saw,
Nyamira.
Miriam, where do you live in? Are you the only one in Jerusalem?
Sometimes I just take a time off.
They said it.
And watch music.
They wrote and even published in the newspapers that stop attacking the Chief Justice. Warned most of us who always attack the Chief Justice. They said you will have a problem with us.
Okay, you've been warned now.
Not me. No, me, there is no day until the Chief Justice realizes either does something very significant.
Yes.
And liaises with judges. Look at the Ugandan judges who are going to make a ruling today.
Yeah.
They had hours and hours of meeting.
Should you expect anything?
They have put all national interest, public interest, administrative interest, security interests of this case, implications. That's why they have been delaying a lot. What do? Because they are infringing on one of the articles, the main pillar of a constitution. Remember, a constitution is a constitution, but there are certain pillars you don't touch without a referendum.
Yes.
You can't come, for example, to say, I want to appoint a deputy president who will not be my running mate.
That will require referendum.
You'll kill constitutionalism. I give you time.
Yes.
Corruption and law. There is this letter from the lawyer. It was sent and I want to make it very clear so that it is read and the people know that when they send their things, we work on them. And we are experts of working on things. Yeah, when you send us information of that nature, we use it. Yeah.
And while you do that, Mbuyu, you're saying, Dr. Matsanga, I cannot imagine to hear. What is that? Oh, he's disagreeing with the Kisi comment.
No, they were on it. It was on the newspaper.
Yes.
Yes, Mbuya he knows. It was on the newspaper.
Mbuyu, thank you for joining. Thank you
for joining us. You are my friend. I don't want to lie to you.
Yes.
They said it. Don't touch. Don't touch. You remember when somebody filed an application saying the chief just went to address people where the public. They came.
What happened to that application?
It's a longer story.
We're waiting for the case now.
Yes.
Okay. As we wait for the rest of the judges of the Supreme Court cases, all of them have cases in the Supreme Court. All right. I'm trying to read one other. Charles Ifenso, you're saying you're watching us all the way from Abuja, Nigeria, and you're saying keep your courage up. We shall like you talking about the saga in Nigeria politics, the area.
We are coming.
Yes.
Stephen, I've sent you the letter. There is this letter from Ogonya and Wambola advocates referencing the Secretary of Law Society of Kenya, Jitanga Road. High Court Constitutional Petition numbers 93 and 94 of 2009 and High Court Judicial Review Application 83 of 2009 legal opinion. I think this is regarding, they are talking about the Law Society of Kenya and others when they went to seek this question of exemption of certificates to Tomo Gender and others. That lawyer, you can bring that so that it can be on the screen and you can see the type of law, how lawyers have confused us, how we have confused ourselves, and how we can, I don't know, how do we come out of this mess, my dear sister?
Can they put that up? They're putting up that for us?
Yeah, it will come up, but I can send it to you so that you can see it also on your...
On my device.
On your digital, since we are digital inside here.
Yes, and as we wait for that, please, as you write to us, let us know where you're watching us from this morning. This is, of course, Good Morning Africa show, where we look at matters, Pan-Africanism, and what is making headlines, not just in Kenya, but across Africa and indeed across the world. And if there's a story or anything interesting that you think our viewers will be interested in knowing this morning, you're free to write us. Actually, it's afternoon. It's just 5 minutes past the midday Kenyan time, so please.
It's not 5 minutes, it's
past.
10.
It's 10 minutes past.
No, it is exactly
top of the
midday,
hour.
Top of the hour, 1 minute.
We started early.
We started early, yes.
Okay, so thank you so much. And Lonin Lolik, you're saying, why do you think your president support Kir in South Sudan? Can you tell us, please?
Which president? Is it mine? Or yours?
I have no idea.
Because both of us clarify.
We have different presidents, please.
He has a different president, I have a different president.
That's a good one. Please let us know which one.
Which one?
But I know where probably the Lonin
is talking about me.
Yeah.
Yes. You might be surprised that none is my president.
Yes.
Except friends. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
My president is different from a global world.
Tell her you buried your president, Obote.
Yes, I did.
And you moved on.
I moved on. So specify which president. So viewers, thank you very much. That has been the law in Kenya allows the judges, free people. An example of Swazuri is caught up terrorists. Kenyan woman financing Iraqi terrorist group.
Can you imagine?
You see, these are the type of things we have got. These are the type of things that are happening in the midst. People must watch out and look out for some of these funny things.
And the US said, and when the US talks about something like this, know that they have proved. They've been investigating.
In Mariakani,
yes,
uses Hawala system of money to transfer to finance ISIS militants. Look at the way she looks like.
You wouldn't tell.
You wouldn't tell. But this is community policing.
Yes.
We as citizens must know. If you see something, I told the people every day, if you see bread, a house that has been buying half a kilo of meat, but it is buying 10 kilos, like this one who came and stayed in Kiambu, you could not. People must be vigilant. Vigilancy. Being vigilant can help us to trace such things. So this is a very bad story for Kenya. And then the web of shame, of course. Then root raids. This is politics. This is what is making the president not comfortable at all.
Could this be the reason why they failed to attend the legislative forum?
Because it was going to be the same.
Yeah.
You have to be introduced by then people start saying, yes, Mr. President, we are behind you.
Becomes a political forum.
Yes, Mr. Deputy, up to the end. Even if we can name our children before your name. Have you seen that is the letter from the one Ogonya and Wambola advocates writing to the secretary for the Law Society, challenging the legality of how you can actually go and get something without clearance. So we wait and see. That's why I put in the law, the courts, and the corruption. As long as these judges are still the same, President Uhuru will find it very difficult in the fight against corruption. Thank you.
All right.
Over to you, Miriam, for the African news. Then we set the ball rolling.
All right.
I can now sit back and relax.
Continue having your tea. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Of course, this afternoon in East Africa, or good morning or evening. I don't know where you're watching us from this day, but thank you so much. And this is the latest when it comes to the news from the continent. And we start with Sudan, where Sudan's military rulers have transferred ousted President Omar al-Bashir to prison. A family source said on Wednesday, as demonstrators keep up their sitting outside the army complex calling for a swift transfer to civilian government. Following the dramatic end to Bashir's rule of 3 decades last week, he was moved late Tuesday to Kober prison in Khartoum, the source said, without revealing his name for security reasons. Witnesses say that near the prison in North Khartoum, there were heavy deployment of soldiers and members of paramilitary group outside. And still in Sudan, and Sudan's military government has said 2 brothers of ousted President Omar al-Bashir have been arrested. A military spokesman said this is part of a campaign to round up symbols of the previous regime. He added that irregular militias linked to the former ruling party have been brought under police or military control. We go to Zimbabwe, where tens of thousands of Zimbabweans are expected to turn out for celebrations to mark 39 years of independence from minority rule. Long-time former President Robert Mugabe will not attend the celebrations as he is receiving treatment in Singapore. While there will be military parades and cultural performances, celebrations will be dampened by economic downturn.
It is today.
That is today, on Thursday. And we go to Libya, where the United Nations Refugee Agency says it has evacuated nearly 180 migrants from a detention center close to the area of fighting in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. The agency said the operation was carried out amid crossfire. People relocated from the Abu Salim center were among its most valuable detainees, including women and children. There's grave concern for those still in the facility, and the fighting is between forces loyal to renegade General Khalif Haftar and militia groups are loosely aligned with the UN-backed government in Tripoli. And we go to South Sudan, where now South Sudan's rebel leader Riek Machar is not ready to return to Juba until security issues are resolved, an official from his party said yesterday. Machar, who was meant to return to South Sudan in May and join a power-sharing government as vice president with President Salva Kiir after the signing of a peace deal in September last year, wants to postpone the formation of a unity government. The deal is the latest efforts to end almost 6 years of conflict, which erupted due to a fallout between the two men in 2017 and in 2013. Observers, though, have been warning the implementation of the deal has since stalled. We go to Mauritania, where Mauritanians will go to the polls on June 22nd to vote for a successor to President Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz, who is stepping down after his second term and final term in office. There is no outright winner in the first round of elections. A runoff vote will be held on July 6th and under presidential decree. Candidates have until 8th of May to file their bid to be next presidents of the conservative West African desert state. And we go to Egypt, where Egypt's election commission said on Wednesday that a referendum potentially allowing President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to stay in power until 2013 will take place on April 20th to 22nd. The ballot, featuring several constitutional amendments, was given final approval in Parliament on Tuesday. We go to Somalia, where 4 people were killed and 5 injured when a car loaded with explosives detonated on a busy road in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, police said on Wednesday. And we end with Uganda, where the opposition legislators have asked the Inspector General of Police, Okoth Ochola, to resign over police suppressing activities of opposition politicians. The opposition legislators, who included Francis Mujuke, Joseph Swungu, and also Fred Tuyamuze, said that journalists on Tuesday at Parliament that Uganda police has greatly become politically partisan, but always disrupting activities of opposition leaders. And that is the latest from Africa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Miriam Ogutu.
Yes.
Any questions?
Any questions? Sudan's strongman Omar al-Bashir has been taken to a maximum prison. I still can't believe that.
Yes.
I was hoping maybe they'll give him a soft amnesty. Not that he really deserved it. You know the way Zimbabweans did. Or maybe because Mugabe's government did not commit a lot of killings. So what is the difference between Mugabe enjoying his retirement now and Sudan Bashir, what it is right now? What he's going through right now? What is the difference between the two transitions?
I think we have a problem here.
Yes.
In Sudan, the situation is different. First of all, Mugabe had royal people who cared for him, but misled by a hungry woman who wanted more and more when he could not finish what she had on the plate. You've seen some people in the parties, when you go with your husband or your wife, leaves one plate here she has brought, then he goes back to the buffet.
Oh, Lord.
To bring a second plate.
People do that.
Madam, I mean, if you have found somebody not compatible.
Yes, leave them alone.
I told you, love is compatibility.
There has to be some level of compatibility.
Yes.
I agree.
If you don't have compatibility with your partner,
it's going to be a problem.
It's a problem. So if you find a wife like Grace Mugabe, Grace Mugabe, who actually turned on the husband, ate the career of the husband, a Pan-Africanist up to the end, the career ended up, we lost Mugabe on that basis. With Khartoum, the situation was different. Here is a person who had created both, sacking his friends. Cabinets were taken out.
He's burnt nearly all the bridges.
He burnt all the bridges, you know? So that, when I started this show, I told you that you better know how you treat people. It could also show them the sign how you are going to treat them in the future.
It's important.
And it could also show you how they could treat you. The gentlemen here, some of them are his right men that he brought to power. The prominence. There must be a strategy how to cool down the overrunning heat of demonstrators.
Yes.
To show that the military is really, even if it were you, wouldn't you go to prison to save your life later on?
So you think this is just for show?
Not show, it's real. Because if they left Bashir in house arrest, the demonstrators will demand that let him be taken out.
They'll bail.
Of course,
that, yes.
the military council at the moment, one or two people that I've spoken to on the military council, personally myself, they remember they are my friends. I know them all the time from 1998. So nobody should think that they know it. Yes, even Museveni knows I know them.
Yes.
So we have been in the battlefield. Some of them, they are not ready yet. You know, even if it were you, you are not ready. What do you do with the former head of state? A man who brought you where you are. 30
years he's ruled you.
Yes.
30 years.
So what they should do now, they are still finding countries like Uganda, and other countries saying bring him or that, safe passage.
They should probably do that, don't you think?
And my dear, constitutionalism, the issue that I'm coming in
They don't
on.
even have a constitution right now. It's been suspended. The constitution has been suspended.
Constitutionalism in Africa
yes.
is where our brakes stop working.
Yeah. In fact, when it gets there,
can I say that?
It just knocks.
Yes.
It does not work.
Yeah, the car runs.
We decide
nobody wants.
This is not for us.
Yes.
Yes. And
so what is happening now in Khartoum is that these guys have not found, you know, they have not found what they can do for Bashir yet. Try him. They have also been in the same army. The pressure, and I told you earlier on last week that whoever designed this regime change, and let Africa be very honest, and listen to me, Africa, yeah. This regime change has been designed by somebody that the demonstrators in Algeria up to today, Friday, and tomorrow, they have called for a major one. They are not leaving the street until they get a preferred candidate who has been told by George Soros and those who funded the rebellion, the demonstration. I told you the demonstration in Khartoum was funded by France through N'Djamena, capital city of Chad. That's why the AU chairperson has nothing to tell the world. He's only telling them disbanded the thing 15 days. How will that military in Sudan? You are planning Sudan into war. If you say 15 days, you must bring a civilian government. Where is it?
A few days have since.
We brought a civilian government in Libya. We have failed.
It has failed miserably.
General Khalifa Haftar is sharing Tripoli, where a civilian government is. Have you seen where we go wrong? In Africa, the AU is captured. This AU is finished. Kenya can go there and sit, or Uganda, but it's finished. And one day you will regret that and say, where is David? Where is David? David will be gone. I'm telling you, AU is captured. The AU are saying 15 days you hand over power. To who?
There's no
to
structure.
chaos. There's no structure.
No structure.
It's better to have the military structure.
They don't even have a constitution that allows that.
Yes. Then have the military structure for now, then later on, the 6 months or 9 months or 1 year, create a constitutional review, put back the constitution, leave the power and go. Alternatively, the military men retire. That's what I've suggested. You know, I'm a very good friend of some of them.
All of them should retire.
Yeah, they retire and take the whole thing. Hey, you know, we want to beat the French fury. Listen to me.
Yes.
Yes, that is suggested. Retire. If they can retire Miriam, they all retire and they become former lieutenant general, former general, retired general. And they leave the army post to other army. They take over. That's what we want to tell them to do.
Because I think
we have told them.
That has been the problem for the protesters, because these army people you're putting in place, they've been working for the former president.
There is no way, if this army now leaves.
They have a soft spot for Bashir.
Can you believe me? I was watching Zainab. She's herself a Sudanese on BBC. If this is the type of thing that they have for an intelligent lady like Zainab of BBC to ask such questions, saying that rapid force has also joined the military wing council. Rapid force are also Sudanese. Because the rapid force is the Janjaweed. You know that? The commander of the Janjaweed is General Dokoro. He speaks very few words. So, you know, so the demonstrators are bringing hiccups. So that might be very, very murky. If the army just leaves and says we hand it to who?
Yes.
Doctors will come and argue.
But they say they don't want to be part of the leadership. They just want the right person to be put there. They say they don't want power themselves. The doctors,
Yes.
the lawyers, they say, no, we don't want that. We
But
just
even
give us
up
the right
to now,
person.
they have asked the civilians to bring one name of a prime minister. They can't.
But there was a very prominent opposition leader there. Why can't he? Why can't they agree and have him?
You think National Congress will accept? Remember, National Congress has been, you know, removed from power. But it's still Sudan. They are also Sudanese. They will also form an opposition. If you put the opposition leader, the late Turabi, if he had been there today, Turabi would be acceptable. But then people will also say, no, they don't want Turabi. So whom are you going to put in Sudan today? Impossible.
And Mbuyambu is saying Mugabe should have resigned earlier, but he was lucky his military respected him.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Mbuyambu should know that I was telling Mugabe in Addis Ababa.
So he retired honorably.
Yes, to put. Then the wife had, maybe Mugabe went back and said, some African guy, a friend of mine, was telling me to retire.
Of course.
You know, love can blind the people, man.
That is the apple of his eye. He had to share. He had to share the apple of his eye. So, and that must have got him into problem. And Kerr Aluite is saying, what kind of government system is in North Sudan going to adopt? What kind of government system is North Sudan going to adopt after kicking out the long-time dictators? So that is what I think the rest of the world is waiting to see. Because all the people of Sudan or the rest of the world have lived with is the leadership of Omar al-Bashir. 30 years he was in power. So right now, we really don't know what the Sudanese are planning or what kind of leadership. I think those are things that maybe the army thought, or the leadership that is there right now thought, you know, perhaps we require these 2 years so that we can put new structures in place for new form of leadership, for new, so just a clean start.
Okay, our facts are brought back to, we want to cross over to Kampala. This is the second part of our show. Does constitutionalism in Africa help politics and governance? Thank you very much, Miriam. Let's tackle that subject, including any other issue that comes up. We shall take it on. Does constitutionalism in Africa help politics or political governance? What is your say about that? Do people respect constitutions in your country?
Especially the political players.
How
does the constitution merge even with
yes.
politics? And should they
do we use it effectively to harass others?
Should we pick it when it's only working for us? That's when we refer to it.
Let's cross over to Kampala.
Yes.
To see what is happening in the Supreme Court from our sister organization that is anchoring it there inside on our satellite in Kampala.
For example, the case in France, a judge somewhere in rural areas of France, one of the village judges somewhere, decides that he's going to indict leaders in Rwanda and talks about all kinds of things that happened in Rwanda and, blames Rwandans for. At the same time, there is a bad history between us where actually during the genocide, there are many things that happened that involved some people from France. Oh. So now, instead of actually
69 and 70, but it can be seen from the answer that the majority of members who had an opportunity to address the House were timed out. If you look at the answer, almost every member. And Justice Kakuru gave the statistics, out of 452 members of parliament, only 124 members of parliament contributed or debated on the constitution, leaving out others, notably the leader of opposition, pleading for time to debate. The time given for debate and closure of the same is determined by the Speaker in accordance with the rules 69 and 70. I can only comment that the debate was rushed, leaving out members of parliament who still wanted to express their views, yet in the first place it was the Speaker who had sent them out to go and gather the views of the electorate. There was also no time for debate on other aspects of the bill relating to electoral reforms as recommended by this court. But that again is, I think, the prerogative of the Speaker, and court cannot interfere. Suspension of members of parliament. I set down all the submissions. There were 2 suspensions by the Speaker. The first being on 27 September 2017, where the Speaker suspended 25 members for gross misconduct, which ranged from carrying a firearm into the chambers of parliament and unruly conduct, which included failure to listen to the Speaker in silence, standing, climbing on chairs, tables. And the Speaker clearly explained to the members before suspending them under Rule 8 Sub-Rule 2. There was a second suspension on 18 December 2017, whereby the Speaker suspended 6 members who included Honorables Ibrahim Semuju, Alan Siwanyana, Karahanga, Jonathan Udu, Mubarak Mnyagwa, and Anton Nakor, without assigning any reason for their suspension. I'm aware that the rules of procedure of Parliament clearly show the procedure to challenge the Speaker's ruling, which is by motion. The members should have taken that course of action, and this court cannot intervene where this specific remedy is available and the members are permitted to take it. Failure to close doors, I deal with it. I don't think, you'll find it. Now, let's deal with the certificate of compliance. Certificate of compliance and presidential assent are mandatory requirements that must be met before any bill can become law. Article 91 and 263 of the Constitution. Parliament passed the Constitution Amendment Bill, which in fact amended Articles 61, 102, 104, 183, 77, 105, 181, 289, 289A, and 291 of the Constitution. The Speaker prepared a certificate of compliance in which he included Articles 61, 102, 104, and 183 of the Constitution as the only ones amended and excluded the others. The Speaker was supposed to send the entire bill with all the articles amended and passed by Parliament, the President. The majority of the Constitutional Court justices found her action to be irregular if you read through the judgment of Justice Cheboria. The land justices properly explained the importance of a certificate of compliance and clearly stated it is a mandatory requirement under Article 263 of the Constitution. This position was well stated in the case of Semogere, and with due respect to the majority of the Constitutional Court justices, once it was found that the certificate of compliance was fatal, it is a contradiction to conclude that it was valid. I therefore find there was no valid certificate of compliance prepared by the Speaker. I don't know whether I should intervene and say that I'm not interested in this either clapping or what. This is a court. Well, I think we should do. Yeah, on the illegal assent to the bill by the President. Having held that there was no valid certificate of compliance, it follows that there was nothing valid to assent to. I found that there was no valid assent to the bill by the President. I deal with the failure to comply with the 14 days. Now that one clearly refers is concerned with the with the Nandara and Tusime motions, amendments. Let me. But it is here. Debating in absence of the opposition leader, I think the Constitutional Court handled that one very, very well. I'm not. Because I don't think the Speaker had any choice if somebody decides to walk out. And that is what the judgment is. Crossing the floor of Parliament. I don't even know why we took a lot of time. How does somebody cross because he has sat on the other side? Crossing is mental, not physical. You find that is how I deal with it. I mean, if you follow the judgment of the Constitutional Court, it's exactly what I think. Signing the report. I don't think the signatures, those extra signatures, made it unconstitutional. It was shabby, but I don't think you can say it was unconstitutional. I'm trying to summarize so that we. Now, let me go to severance, because I have found that a number of acts were unconstitutional. Would you sever them from the original Magezi bill? This is my take on severance. The majority of the Constitutional Court justices applying the principle of severance severed the amendments which were introduced by the Honorable Tsime Michael on the extension of the term of Parliament and that on Nandra Mafari on the limits at the committee stage of the whole House from original Magezi bill. I don't agree with Mr. Mavirizi that because the principle was not pleaded or argued by any of the parties at the trial, the Constitutional Court was precluded from applying it. To me, if court through its own research finds the principle that may have been missed by the parties but is helpful in solving the case, there is nothing to stop the court from relying on it. The concern to the parties should be whether the principle was actually applicable or the court was misconceived in applying it. The above two amendments emanated from the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. The general recommendations were where the committee recommended for reinstatement of presidential term limits. During the debate of the report of the committee, some of the members of Parliament supported the above amendment, the one on restoration of term limits, and actually influenced debate. I sample a few. I can take the one of Honorable James Waruswaka, NRM Bunwere County West Tareja. He says, my people told me that we restore the term limits, not only for the president, but for all elected members of Parliament. There are members of Parliament who have been for several years, but they do not want to leave. Why don't they serve 2 terms and go? Then the same Kenneth Rubogo, Violet Uproot. Let me sample the one of Alex Biargawa, NRM Singiro County. He states, it was on that basis that I took my consultative meetings to the 5 sub-counties in my constituency with a population of about 220 people. I traversed all the sub-counties and corrected the following. Yes, sometime in Parliament, term limits were removed. My people instructed me to come back and share with you that we must keep this country together and that term limits must be reinstated and entrenched. And if you read the judgment, there are many others, and there are those who spoke against the term limits. Later, when it comes to the second reading of the bill, the Honorable Beatrice Sanywa stated that, Madam Speaker, on lifting the term limits, I vote yes. She was called back by the Speaker to vote properly, and she voted yes, but her support for the bill was clearly influenced by the return of term limits. I'm of the opinion that the amendments introduced were not foreign to the Magezi bill. The members of Parliament were sent out by the Speaker, and she emphasized that they should properly consult the people in accordance with Article 1 of the Constitution. The members during the debate clearly demonstrated that their voters had strictly demanded for a statement of the term limits. At the committee stage of the whole House, the Honorable Tsime sought permission to introduce. I talk about the introduction of the term limits report. The Deputy Attorney General moved to block the amendment by the Honorable Mafai because it was not debated, and it was a matter for a referendum. After the committee stage, the chairperson put the question to members. The title "Do the bill and answered" shows us the question was put and agreed. From the above, it is crystal clear that the two amendments were proposed and voted upon by the members of parliament in the committee and agreed that they form part of the original Magezi bill. From this moment up to the conclusion of the process, the amendments became an integral part of the bill, judging from the report of Raphael Magezi indicated below. This is what Magezi states. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the bill entitled the Constitution Amendment and passed the entire bill with amendments, and also introduced and passed new clauses amending Articles 77, 181, 29, 291, 105, and 260. I beg to report. At the motion for adopting the report from the Committee of the Whole House, and again, Mr. Magezi states, Honorable Magezi states, Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the report of the Committee of the Whole House be adopted. The Speaker put the question to members that the report of the Committee of the Whole House be adopted, and the answer shows that the question was put and agreed to. The bill went on to the third reading. The Honorable Magezi moved the bill be read for the third time and do pass, and the Speaker put the question to members and voting for the third started. I have reproduced the above part of the answer to show that the amendments by Honorable Siman Mafai were passed by members of Parliament and allowed to be added on the original Magezi bill at the committee stage. Secondly, the report...
Thank you very much. Welcome back, Miriam.
Yes, thank you.
You have heard for yourself.
Term limits.
Term limits.
It's a peak word there today.
Age limit.
Age limit, yes.
Yes. You want me to do an interpretation for you briefly?
Unfortunately, I wish they would be speaking about the term limits and not the age limits.
Exactly. Yes. You know that.
Yes.
That's what I want. You see, I told you to ask me about what happened. 1995.
Yes. I was about to.
It's okay. When the late Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uganda, with James Wapakabulo, a relative of mine from the same place, came to London, and the late Mayombo, they came to London to address a meeting. I told them there are two things that they had done very wrong. One, Article 102B should not have been there. You see what the judge has ruled structure. It doesn't matter. It can be altered. There was no way they fixed the term limit to 75 years. Yet in the Bill of Rights, we have what we call rights of a human being.
You cannot discriminate upon.
You can't discriminate him against using age.
Yes.
So we shot ourselves in our feet.
Both feet.
Let Ugandans know that.
Yes.
So whoever is expecting anything out of this ruling is either mentally deranged or has something wrong. So for me, that type of politics, I washed my hands a long time ago, Miriam.
In 2019, that is not a conversation we should be having.
Yes.
In terms of building our democracies and moving forward.
Exactly.
Let's look at the...
It's a Bill of Rights. It says, don't discriminate any human being on color, religion, and age. In the first 102, you are saying you have discriminated a man to stop working at 75. I told them that was an error. It will haunt you. 2019, they are all dead, two of them. I'm still here, and I'm speaking with strength. It has haunted the country. Let's move on. Constitutionalism in Africa, how does it help governance? most of the African countries, from Nigeria, for example, the idea of constitution and constitutionalism brought back Nigeria where it is today. Because the military was coming every day, every day.
Since independence 30 years, it was straight military rule.
So what has happened, including one person, there is one president in Africa, a general, who was overthrown by women in the market. Women in Ghana overthrew General Achampong, removed him from power. Women. So the power of women is constitutionally has been growing. When you see a woman in Sudan standing on the top of a car,
the other women
you can see other women.
Africa paved the way for her to do that.
So Accra in Ghana, General Champong removed very nicely by women in the market who turned on him, even blocked his motorcade everywhere until the man gave up. He was overthrown. Yes. A country like Nigeria, with 200 million people over, the constitution there, constitutionalism there, works in some parts, in the north, in the Abuja and around, but unconstitutionality is the order of the day in Nigeria. Look at the way the north, or most of the leaders who are northerners, come down to rule the southerners. In most of these countries where the British colonial master went through, southerners are the ones who ruled the northerners. Looking at Uganda, look at Zimbabwe, you see? Look at all these areas.
I'm trying to place the Kenyan map and
place it and see.
South.
You'll find the southerners.
Not so much, but
or central.
Yes.
But the south, still the north, is always used for other buffer zones.
Yes.
In Malawi, the same. That's why people had to move the capital away from where it was. Kamuzibanda.
Nkurunziza wants to move the capital to the Bujumbura to somewhere else in.
Who? In Burundi.
Yes.
Yes. In Tanzania, it is different. Two presidents have come from the north. Mwalimu Nyerere and Magufuli.
Okay.
You see, in Maputo, the president comes from the south. Samora Machel was from the south. Chisano was from the south. You see, after the colonial era left, those who were closer to this capital were more knowledgeable or handed over. Lagos was the main center, but Lagos was occupied mainly by intellectuals who left the army in the hands of. So the constitutional arrangement that came in has at least helped the Nigerians to remain where they are today.
And of course, the Nigerian constitution is like a decree that was given by the military. You know, it was given during the military rule.
Yes.
It has not really evolved to cater for Nigeria as a federal country.
Yes.
And as a civilian
it is not.
So there have been debates that maybe it's not serving Nigerians very much.
It doesn't.
Yes.
Ghana's 1992 constitution is a hybrid arrangement that combines the United States and the British, Westminster Foundation and USA.
Sounds like what you have here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what you have here, you have left too much. You need to go to referendum to find out what you can do with it. Because if you don't seal the loopholes, there are too many loopholes in 2010 constitution. That some of the things you have not reached a level in Kenya to sustain the things. Yes, there is democracy per se on the level of governance and the people allowing others to speak the way they speak.
But that's it.
That's it.
How well?
But when it comes to the welfare and the social structures,
we don't have
people
that.
would not be complaining about the housing levy. If the structures, social structures were available, people would understand that the money they are cutting from our income goes to build a better housing system.
Because when now people hear the 1.5%, what they're hearing is NHIF.
Yes, the scandal.
Yes.
People are hearing the scandal.
The dam.
They are not the dam Aroro.
They translate.
Kemororo.
You really can't blame.
Where at 20.
Yes.
All these dams.
Yes.
People hear NHIF, KPLC,
So you tell
KPC.
them that's how they translate.
Yes.
Yes.
Egypt. You can see they are already extending for Assisi to rule until 2032.
2030.
2030. We are done.
Yes. And you know, when his predecessor, Mohamed Morsi, came into power, he did not know how to really compromise. He was such a, he did not know how to work with the army or work with, he just came with his own mind, a Muslim Brotherhood, and that gave him a lot of problem. And now people are wondering, is President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi really trying to dig his own grave here?
No. You can't dig grave with your own military unless the military comes to overthrow you.
But did you see the former president?
Hosni Mubarak.
Yes, his own military.
No, they have.
But have you seen Omar al-Bashir, his own military? What are you saying?
I mean, that's why I'm saying, until his own military comes for him,
yes,
it is impossible for the crowds to come again.
If I was an aspiring president in Africa, I would just do the 2 terms and leave very quickly.
No, even 1 term.
And just go.
Yeah.
Serve the people and just
and
leave.
Tell them that they do it
you don't
now.
have to get somebody
I'm
else.
gone.
I will be worried.
I'm going to do my farming.
Yes, somewhere.
Yes.
Or just enjoy my retirement.
Not somewhere within the country. Do my farming, sit and look after my children, grandchildren, come and we play.
The way Kaunda is doing.
Yes.
Doing is just waiting for the sunset, you know? Yeah. So...
Sudan, we have already talked about it.
Yes, we have. And now, right now, the constitution of Sudan has been suspended since the ousting of President Bashir, actually way before that.
But Uganda that is it, the same? The Uganda is the one that you have just seen now.
That is something else.
And that is something else. We
yes.
don't know what is going to happen.
And I think the next time we come, we will give our viewers the latest on what has the case, right now, the ruling that is going on at the Uganda High Court on the age limit.
Yes.
The age limit in terms of limiting the presidential aspirants of certain age. That you're having this conversation in 2019 is insane.
Okay. Thank you very much, viewers. I want to now turn 10 minutes to thanking all our viewers. And we want to thank you, to wish you a good Easter.
Yes.
A day like this in Palestine, the land of the holy, those days of the river, beyond the river Babylon, Tigris and the Euphrates, the land of Babylon, by the rivers of Babylon.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's a while. So today, on an occasion like this, viewers, all Christians tend to know that this is the night of betrayal. And a night of betrayal like this in African context means darkness. Our continent, Africa, looks like is stuck in the dark ages. We still have coups, we still have violence, we still have leaders who stick to power. We still have those who betray the will of the people. We still have those who maim their own people. People like Paulo Biya of Cameroon. He's still presiding over a machinery that kills his own people. To Christians like us, we reflect on such a day that the crimes that Judas Iscariot committed should not actually take us or bring us closer to it, but teach us a lesson that the betrayal of our masters, betrayal of the people who have served so well should never happen. Also, leaders in Africa should learn from this experience that today, as Jesus is going to be betrayed, there is no way that could stop other people betraying you. So betrayal became a phenomenon in divinity and in normal life. Mm-hmm. We want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for having tuned in. We shall actually keep you up to date with news, and we shall be flowing news, whatever it is, at the time needed. But between now and the Easter holidays, tune in our radio station, which will give quite a lot of information. Once in a while, I'll be checking on the television. We shall continue to broadcast where necessary. But we want to thank you, Christians, and other citizens of the world who also believe that there existed Jesus and was killed by the Roman Empire, one of the governors of the state.
Pontius Pilate.
Pontius Pilate, who washed his hands and said he doesn't find anything wrong with this man.
Yes.
But the people wanted
bailing for his
Barabbas to be released and Jesus to be killed. Therefore, there you are.
Yes, indeed.
We have come to the end of
the show today.
And I want to wish Miriam a good Easter. Let's talk over the Easter. And all of you, all my teams, production team, cameramen, and the rest, thank you very much. All our viewers, thank you very much. We shall be in touch. Keep in touch. Keep seeing what we have. We have plenty of videos that are loaded on our platform. When you don't hear us, use them. Hear the word and spread the word of strength until the holidays are over and we return to work. Thank you very much. God bless you. Miriam, any word?
Just to wish our viewers a happy Easter and thank you for your continued support, and we will see you here very, very soon.
On behalf of Africa, Punchline Africa TV, Radio Punchline is there 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365. You can listen to the music. Time and time again, I will interrupt to say to cheer up, to make sure that you are not listening to the equipment only. I want to thank you all. I want to thank, while you are on this Easter holiday, one caution: security is very important. Anything that you see which is suspicious, especially those who are in Mombasa, in the cities, in the towns, in the rural area, people trying to buy cars, change cars, do this, people who are trying to hire cars, buy too many telephone cards, all that, too much food for one house. Check. Suspicious elements should be reported to the police. Don't take anything by granted. There could be something that you need to know. That is very, very important. So keep going. Watch out. Those in Mombasa, be on extra vigilance to make sure that the festival can end properly. Because you know at this time, this is the time when violence loves where there is a gap. Therefore, don't give gaps to Al-Shabaab and other organizations that are planning to do evil to us. Be alert. We want to pray for our the return of the doctors, the 2 doctors, safely to Kenya. We want to thank our security agencies that are working on that. We pray for you. Those in Kismayo and those in Somalia, we pray for you to keep. We want to thank you for keeping that peace and keeping the struggle against any form of violence. Back at home, we want to thank the police, the intelligence, the military intelligence, the civil intelligence, and all the security organs that have been handling the security of Kenya for us to be able to move and do our things freely. Thank you very much. That is it. Viewers, this station is for Africa, with Africa, by Africa Child.
We call for a non-violent revolution. We call for a non-violent protest. We call for a non-violent march. This is what we are demonstrating to the world, and we have resisted Mr. Biya's army of occupation in our land, but this is a moment that we must continue to stand firm.
Of this nation.
Along with many other Cameroonians, many of you, as far back as the early 90s, and more frequently lately, I have insisted upon the imperative nature of genuine dialogue. Unfortunately, the government's solution has been cosmetic reforms and repression. Teachers, lawyers who raised legitimate concerns were either arrested or forced into exile. Doctors, important people in our society who asked for genuine dialogue, were met with punitive transfers and humiliation. It is regrettable that the government hasn't learned from the past.
We are ambassadors. We don't need anything again. The only solution to the matter is let the government solve this problem by giving our independent freedom.
We have a territory of our own. We recognize international boundaries. We have a language. We have a culture. We have our own laws. We have everything that is required by international standards to be a people and a nation and a state. The UN must give us this right.
We as a people, we have the right to self-determination, and we are determined to go our separate ways.
The people of the Southern Cameroons have suffered under the brutal regime of the annexationists, La République du Cameroun. We have suffered for 56 years, and we finally decided that enough is enough.
I think dialogue is the main solution, because the use of military has never been a solution to a problem concerning this kind of issues. So the government of Cameroon has to dialogue with the Anglophone regions to come to a compromise and let this problem be solved.
Now, we want to inform the whole world that the Southern Cameroonian prisoners of conscience in the jails of Yaoundé are on the second day of their declared hunger strike. Now, we want the entire world to know, because we are convinced that the regime in Yaoundé will be indifferent until they begin to die. While we encourage our brothers in this process, we also call on Southern Cameroonians to join them in a fasting, so that the whole world may know that we are a determined people.
Self-determination cannot be effective without self-defense. We are opposed to violence. We are opposed to war. But if La République, if the UN should continue to dilly-dally as they are doing, and La Republique comes now to attack our people, they are forced, they are bound by the law of nature to defend themselves.